A few weeks after part 2 came out, the quad stopped shifting out of nowhere. So after a little bit of troubleshooting, I found out that the angle shift sensor was broken. So I started by cleaning it up with the air tool. Then after I chained it up to the pickup and dragged it around the yard to work on it, because the only place to work on it on a concrete flat spot was the back porch. That day it was too muddy to do rear wheel drive, so I shifted it into 4-wheel. So after I unchained it, I took it inside to take off the cosmetics and clean it, because we're not selling this if it's not clean. Then I went ahead and bought another angle shift sensor and plugged it in real quickly. It was a very short install. To get to the carburetor, you have to take off the airbox. So the main reason why these carburetors bog down so much is because of the jets being clogged, over many years of use with abuse of not cleaning it and not well maintained, which the previous owner definitely did not maintain this at all. To fill the cracks, I'm using JB Weld Plastic Bond. It's different than normal JB Weld, and it's supposed to be better adhesive for actual plastic. So I'm just applying it on with a simple popsicle stick. So I know how stupid it sounds, like drifting this thing once I got the cosmetics back on and like they're completely clean, but I don't know, that was my brain at the time, because I'm editing this right now on July 3rd, and this was a few months ago, so I don't know what my brain was thinking. But it also came with a light bar, so let's put that back on. So for the light bar, You have to have the battery, a switch, 2 wires for ground and voltage. So the switch I got was like $7 off of Amazon, and I just gonna cut it short for you guys because, boring. Also, it's more for entertainment than education. But now that they're wired up, I put a fuse on it so it didn't burn anything, and this thing is super bright in the dark.
Hey, this is No Brains AI. No Brains did want to cover this part because he felt stupid about the mistake he made. So here's what happened from a first-person perspective. I should have stopped and listed it for sale, but decided to go for one last ride. Forgot to check the oil, it was low, but decided it would be fine.
I was wrong. With no lubrication to the top end, the engine got extremely hot. And after so much stress, the piston head blew up. Now this is where it gets serious. If shrapnel from the piston head goes through the transmission, the whole engine could be ruined. This simple, ignorant mistake could have been avoided by a cup of oil that costs barely $1. But now I have to buy hundreds of dollars worth of parts to get it back into working condition. This situation made me mad because I would have to go over profit margins to fix my simple mistake, which meant we would be losing money on this project.
So he has to take out the engine and tear it down to the last bolt to see if it is salvageable. All right, No Brains AI is out.
In this clip, I'm just yapping for a straight 5 minutes. So here's the shortened version of the point I was trying to make. When the quad blew up, there were aluminum pieces scattered all around the motor. If I wanted to save it, I'd have to clean it all out, meaning I'd have to remove every bolt on the motor and take it all apart. Because if I didn't and just replace the head, it would ruin all the bearings and possibly the transmission, with chunks of aluminum from the exploded head just floating all around it. It could totally ruin it. So I went ahead in this clip and checked all the gears, making sure it didn't have any shifting issues, and we were in the green light, so that means I am going to rebuild this motor. And I know that sucks, but this is like the cheapest way to do it, because if I spent and bought another motor, it'd be like $500, and that's way too expensive for the budget. So when I got the engine out, I started by taking the head off, and the head is the most easiest part of the engine to remove. It's, I think, 8 bolts to take the whole thing off. So I got everything off and out of the way, and we finally get to check out the damaged piston head. On one side it's completely normal, but when we take a look on the other side, the whole wing is gone, meaning that there are pieces of aluminum in the engine. To take off the flywheel, you need a specialized tool called a flywheel puller, so I ordered that along with some other things I will need. Having this flywheel puller, it took it right off, no problem. To keep all the parts together in the same order, I use zip ties because it takes the big risk away of losing or putting a spacer in the wrong place. So when I was at the center of the motor, I started blowing every part in piece with compressed air, getting rid of most of the aluminum particles and pieces. And aluminum is a very soft metal, so whatever is still there when I'm done, the engine should handle it fine after a few oil changes. Right here, I'm transferring everything out from one half of the case and putting it on the other half so nothing falls out, trying to put them back together. After cleaning it, I put the transmission, drive shaft, final shaft, and the reverse rod shifter back into the case. The amount of torque you can put on a bolt while using an air tool is so incredible, so what I did to be safe was use the air tool until it started to tighten, then went back and used a normal socket wrench. This is definitely safer in my opinion. Now that all the bolts were tightened, I flipped the motor over and started putting in the tiny camshaft and the timing chain. With the motor almost done, I bought the top end kit. This kit came with a piston head, head gaskets, piston rings, and a new sleeve. And for funsies, they threw in a spark plug. I'm still going to use it though. My phone died while I was recording, but I went on ahead because I only had a little bit amount of time to get this on, but put some gasket in there, put it all back together. Now it's time to take this and put it back in the bike and see if it runs.
Hi, hey, hello. No Brains AI is taking over again. There were a few problems that needed to be fixed before he could put the cosmetics back on. These problems include the speed sensor being broken and the carburetor needing to be replaced, the shift angle sensor broke while fixing the engine, and the solenoid and starter being burnt out. So he ordered these 5 parts.
So the packages were coming that day, so I started by taking off all the parts I was going to replace. It was perfect timing because when I was done, the parts had just arrived. When I was done installing all the parts, it was time to put back on the cosmetics. But what I thought would be awesome was to wrap the front and back cosmetics. So I bought this digital camo wrap that was about $100 for a 5x15 sheet off of Amazon, so it wasn't the best quality. So let me just say I had no idea how to wrap, and I didn't have any of the right tools either. So what ended up was me giving up and tearing it off, and what happened while tearing it off was it peeled almost all of my black paint off. What I decided to do was wrap some other pieces as a highlight, and those went a lot better. But for the main cosmetics, I did a little research on how to paint plastics, and this time I know how to do it correctly. When I took off the wrap, it broke the JB weld, so I asked a friend and he lent me a plastic welder, so I welded all my cracked cosmetics. But when you're done putting a weld in, it leaves 2 metal pins sticking out from the top, so I clipped and ground them off with an angle grinder. Now they are ready for paint. What I forgot last time was the promoter base coat, so the black spray paint didn't have anything to grab onto. So after the base coats, all of the other coats were sticking way better than last time. But since you don't want to see this because I've already done it before, it got really boring. Also, I'm trying to keep this video as short as possible so I don't have to waste your time. That's just like well, that took longer than expected. So, let's get this into the garage where we can actually work on it. So it's all dark right now. There's stuff on the table. Let's just... Well, that was easier than said than done. But now we have the motor on the table. We have our new neutral switch sensor. So we're gonna get this thing cracked open. We're gonna get it put back together and into the bike as soon as we can. So we have the motor now right by the quad. So it's going to rain in about a few hours from the weather app. I really doubt it. I think it's going to rain way sooner. And I do not want to get any type of water or moisture in the engine. So I'm just going to time lapse this. So I test drove the four-wheeler the next night and it was working pretty good. The only problem was that it randomly kept shutting off and I had no idea what was happening. But I looked back at the budget and I was almost $2,500 down the pit, and I cannot research this problem or troubleshoot this problem, so I had to sell it with it. But the next night it kind of wasn't acting up as bad, so I took it out for a test drive and had a little fun. After the fun was concluded, I put the listing up on Facebook Marketplace. Here are some images, and not even a day later, my account got suspended for being underage, which I literally could not care less. So I went on the website, home of the boomers, Craigslist, and left it there for a day, and I was waiting for a response. I got an email, and it read, "You have a wiring problem. I see right away that will fix both problems." And they gave me his phone number. So as anybody else looking for advice, I called him.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
This is
As soon as I saw the picture, figured out what was wrong with it.
what's up?
You don't have power going to your starter.
Huh?
Your power, you have to have power going to your solenoid.
Huh?
So your key, when you hit your key switch, it sends power to your starter.
Huh?
Even though that did make sense, it was not going to help me out in my situation because he was talking like it was a normal wiring harness, which if you didn't know, these are the pictures that the listing showed, especially the wiring photo here. So after that encounter, there was this guy who wanted to look at it, but he kind of sounded like a bot. He said, "Need to get information where I can see this unit. Phone number, address, or text number." And I was like, yeah, it definitely sounds like a bot message. Should I give him a phone number? Sure, why not? A day later, the bot message guy called, and it turns out he's a real person. It was just an old grandpa. Of course, it's Craigslist. So he asked a few questions on the call and then made up a meetup plan for the next day. Let's say it went well, but he didn't want to buy it because he was looking for a 4-wheel drive and mine's a 2-wheel drive.
Bruh.
So I decided to make another account on Facebook Marketplace and listed it there, and we didn't have to wait long for offers to come in. There was this guy that messaged me and said, "Would you take 500?" I said no. He said, "Okay, when can I come and see it?" I said, "Let's meet up tomorrow." So the next day he came and checked it out, and it was a little too much work for him and said he would have to pass. Then I asked him, "How much would you take for it?" He said, with all the visible damage, he said 500, and this price seemed like it was all I was going to get out of this thing. So I said I could do 500, and we shook on it. So he loaded it up, handed me the 500, and left with the quad. And now I can finally say the Rancher series has finally finished after a year of struggles, and now I know more than ever before about four-wheelers, which landed me some other jobs. So how much did I make off this project? Let's say I didn't make a single thing. I actually lost money. I lost $2,500, but now the money pit is gone and I can start a different flip project with all the experience from this one. This has been a fun roller coaster, but it has come to an end. I'm Sam, and you are watching No Brains.